We have public policies now that make murder and this kind of public lynching legal. And right. All of us bleed the same color.
Right.
All of us breathe the same air. And we're all made in the image and likeness of God. And I want to say that if we continue to allow this to happen in our community, all of us are just as vulnerable as was Mr. Araujo. It is no different. If he's not safe, we're not safe.
It's Thursday, July 9th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions through our No Paywall podcasts and digital media. We make Texas politics easy to understand and to participate in, and your support for fact-based independent media hands the mic to millions of Texans. Thanks to Julianne Reeves, Lucy Frost, and Joey Russo-Cade for their ongoing sustaining support. At the top there was Bishop James W.E. Dixon II of Houston, senior pastor of the Community of Faith Church, speaking at a press conference yesterday as overwhelming grief, rising anger, and widening demands for justice emerge in the wake of the killing of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo at the hands of ICE on Tuesday morning. Nowhere has that grief been more strikingly evident than on the faces of his three sons, all U.S. citizens and college graduates who, along with their mother, found out about their father's death at the hands of federal immigration agents on the news. Ronaldo Salgado, one of Lorenzo's three boys, summed it up, quote, "He did not deserve to die," unquote. Jose Olivares at The Guardian says calls for an independent inquiry are spreading through Houston. DHS claims that Salgado Araujo weaponized his vehicle, facing intense skepticism, if not outright rejection, due to a well-established pattern of federal agencies using misleading statements to cover up the facts surrounding immigration-related killings. Aiden Runnels and Stephen Simpson at the Texas Tribune report on a massive gathering last night on Houston's Canal Street where the 52-year-old Salgado Araujo was killed. At this large and diverse community vigil, which notably drew a police presence massive enough to take up most of the area's parking, Congressman Christian Menefee expressed the neighborhood's profound outrage over the lack of transparency thus far, stating, quote, "ICE came to Houston and killed one of our own. This is not the first time this has happened, and every single time they come and they tell us their version of events, but we don't see any evidence," unquote. Congressman Al Green was there as well, saying, quote, "There must be such an investigation. We must not only have it, we must have a hearing so that the public can see and hear as much evidence as is available, especially body camera footage," unquote. Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia is also among those demanding a full accounting of the incident to protect the community from unchecked federal violence. She says, quote, "All available footage, communications, and other evidence should be preserved and reviewed as part of a full and impartial investigation. The victim's family, my constituents, and the entire community deserve a complete and transparent accounting of what happened," unquote. Perhaps the worst part of this tragedy is its potential to fade into routine. After this many ICE-related killings, how many Americans have begun to accept these horrific incidents as just a normal part of immigration enforcement? Houston, so far, is justifiably outraged at yet another senseless death, highlighting the sustained terror that's now inflicted on immigrant communities across Texas via aggressive and predatory federal enforcement tactics. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was a hardworking construction worker with no criminal history who had lived in the U.S. for over 30 years and was targeted while driving his co-workers, likely also collateral targets of ICE, to a job site. His family believes he panicked when unmarked vehicles began tracking him, a dangerous ambush-style tactic commonly used by ICE that leaves residents unable to distinguish federal agents from criminals. The lack of ICE accountability is further compounded by a systemic pattern of non-cooperation. Federal agencies are likely to refuse to share critical evidence with local authorities, just as they have in similar recent ICE shooting investigations, also a hallmark of the dark pattern that has emerged. The death of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo is part of a broader, persistent, and nationwide surge in federally sanctioned violence, marking at least the 23rd shooting involving federal immigration officials since Donald Trump returned to power. Trump hopes Americans will just get used to it, but grassroots resistance is awakened and rising in Houston. We're ripe for a major change in Texas, clearly, and recent fundraising figures appear to reflect a burning desire to bring on that change this November. Kayla Guo at the Texas Tribune says State Representative and Democratic Senate nominee James Tallarico has shattered national fundraising records by pulling in a staggering $30 million over just the second quarter of this year, a monumental haul, more than triple the amount raised by Tallarico's Republican opponent, Attorney General Ken Paxton, who brought in only $9 million in Q2. The Tallarico campaign has now raised over $70 million from more than 1.5 million individual donations since launching. Doing the math here, that averages out to about $46 per donation. An indication of genuine and massive grassroots determination to flip this critical Senate seat blue for the first time since Lloyd Benson's last Democratic win for Texas in that body in 1988. And to hammer this just a bit more, Tallarico has completely sworn off corporate PAC money, building this formidable war chest through genuine people power. An incredible 97% of his donations were for $100 or less, with teachers making up the most common profession among his contributors. Ken Paxton, meanwhile, hasn't disclosed quite yet where his $9 million for the quarter came from, though that will be made public when he files his campaign finance report with the Federal Election Commission by next Wednesday. Polling has the Tallarico-Paxton race in a dead heat, and all that money flowing into this fight portends a fierce one between here and November. A couple of notes out of the old hometown of Lubbock this morning. First, a huge gathering of concerned Flatlanders convened on Tuesday night at Lubbock's Memorial Civic Center to demand that local leaders halt predatory, resource-heavy data center projects threatening local communities in the Lubbock area, an issue that continues to demonstrate its power to unite Texans across ideological lines, as Lubbockites, like folks from across both urban and rural Texas, have overwhelmingly united against these massive and parasitic facilities. Molly Wilhelm at the Houston Chronicle says this meeting saw over 500 working-class locals show up on a Tuesday night to voice deep concerns over the catastrophic strain corporate tech centers threaten against regional water supplies, electrical grids, and the overall quality of life. The long line of speakers made it clear that no level of corporate profit or municipal tax base impact is worth selling out their public health, safety, and peace. The well-traveled Clayton Tucker, Secretary of the Texas Farmers Union and Democratic candidate for Texas Agriculture Commissioner, was there in Lubbock, and he summarized the urgent public sentiment, quote, "We are calling for a full moratorium on these data centers," unquote. We'll note once again that Governor Greg Abbott, while reversing himself in his campaign messaging on data centers, made this mess to begin with. Short of calling a special session this year to modify current state arrangements with big tech companies, the data center ship will have largely sailed. With local control gutted by the GOP-led legislature, no degree of angry town halls or sternly worded letters to the editor are going to have a chance to stop them. Also up in the Hub City, resistance rises at Texas Tech. Catherine Knott at Insight Higher Ed says faculty in the Texas Tech University system are fighting back against Tech's new draconian system of state-sanctioned censorship, filing a sweeping federal lawsuit against Chancellor Brandon Creighton and the Texas Tech Board of Regents. And this lawsuit, backed by an array of civil rights organizations, the Texas American Association of University Professors, American Federation of Teachers, argues that new policies at Tech violate the First and 14th Amendments while actively perpetuating racial discrimination. The lawsuit exposes how Creighton, a former Republican state senator from Conroe and a graduate of UT Austin with no specific personal ties to Lubbock or Texas Tech, administratively forced a partisan far-right agenda upon taking control in Lubbock, and that under Creighton's restrictive directives, university leaders have weaponized curricular reviews to systematically suppress instruction regarding Black history, systemic racism, and LGBTQ+ identities, all establishing an environment of fear in which professors risk losing their livelihoods over the exercise of even basic academic freedom. Christopher Wiggins at The Advocate adds that over 277 courses at Texas Tech have been altered to comply with the new restrictions, and vital gender studies programs have been completely eliminated. Faculty are now barred from teaching basic fundamental academic texts, including Plato's Republic and Ta-Nehisi Coates's Between the World and Me. The administrative bans extend to well-established and essential historical realities, such as the persecution of gay men in Nazi Germany, and even block crucial discussions on present-day health disparities impacting rural Lubbock and border communities in El Paso. Professional training has been severely bottlenecked as law professors are banned from presenting necessary context on landmark cases like Dred Scott. And Tech's medical students are prevented from interacting with transgender patients altogether. We'll continue to follow this lawsuit, and we commend these professors and advocates for fighting back in the name of academic freedom and integrity at Texas Tech. Houston listeners, the next episode of our In Progress Roundtable show will come to you on the radio in the middle of a new Thursday afternoon block of progressive political programming. Today, In Progress starts at 6:30 p.m. every Thursday on KPFT 90.1 FM after the Progressive Forum and before the midterm show with Ernest Wittering, and it runs a second time every Sunday morning at 11 on KPFT FM HD2. With your support, we hope to expand our radio footprint beyond Houston this year. Click the link in the show notes to make your tax-deductible donation to help us reach new audiences via Texas Radio. And while you're at the website, navigate to our web store to snag the merch to match your progressive values. We're talking our newly released Humans Against Abbott, Y'all Means All, and our very popular Resist shirts, stickers, and buttons. Hit the web store at progresstexas.org to support your favorite podcast network today. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. For this Thursday, July 9th, 2026, links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. When lives in Texas are well funded by the far right, your support for fact-based reporting is needed and appreciated. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll catch you again right here tomorrow morning.